What is going on, investors? Hopefully you guys had a great day out there. Time to talk about General Motors Company, ticker symbol GM. This stock has been in the news more recently as the company is shifting to kind of an EV strategy. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But on top of that, the stock is reaching a 52-week high. When we go over the stock chart, it's actually created kind of an interesting formation up here. We'll talk about if you want to buy GM or potentially maybe even sell GM, there it is for you. Now, this is a stock I actually bought a long time ago. I bought shares 10 years ago, almost to the day. Back in 2011, I bought 4 shares of GM at $33 a share. And now you see here, I bought 4.1 shares. Now I got 5.3. Man, I might go to the golf course later. I've got $300 worth of GM. I just wanted to show you that the power of just kind of buying something and just holding it for a really long time. Now, back in 2011, $225 is actually a lot of money to me. And so this was actually kind of a big investment for me at the time. Luckily, things have turned around for me, but I still have those shares of GM almost just to remind me of the buy and hold strategy. Now, GM turned lower. Initially, the stock, I think, traded up. So they just reported these earnings today. We'll jump over the numbers. I'll show them to you. So I'll show you a little bit of the strategy. We'll jump into the revenue and the profit, and then I'll show you the balance sheet as well, which I think is critical when you want to look at GM. Now, the shares, again, were up a little bit, but now they're trading off just slightly in the regular session. The shares might bounce around. I'm recording this kind of intraday. Now, there is some worry that there's this chip shortage going on, and I would get the research that I've read is this chip shortage is going to last through at least halfway into the summer. So you're going to have a chip shortage with cars and trucks, and these car manufacturers are going to have trouble dealing with this at least until the summertime, because it takes a while for these chip makers to kind of ramp this stuff up and get things back up to speed. They're also transitioning into electric vehicles with a lot of new models on tap. We'll take a look at it here. They have 30 new EVs planned globally by 2025. 2/3 of those available here in the North America market. They kind of break it out by the different brands here, and some interesting things, interesting cars. I mean, you got this Hummer one, which is kind of an expensive one, and then you've got these Bolts and these other ones that are not quite as expensive. So they're going to have kind of a full lineup there. Be interesting to see how GM is able to execute on that. Now, let's take a look at the sales. We've got automotive, they've got this financial unit, and then we've got total sales here. They kind of break it down for the different kind of business models that they operate. I'm going to focus on this combined unit here. This is for the year ended December 31st. This is the previous year as well. So we see here total sales for the year came in at $122.4 billion. That's a lot of sales, especially when you compare it to like a Tesla or something like that. And we see combined last year we were at 137. So we were already down year over year. And I think now there's some worry that because of this chip shortage and maybe kind of converting some plants and things like that and rolling out new cars, which may take some time, you could see sales decline again for GM. We'll see if that ends up materializing. Now, we've got total cost. They spend a lot of money on this stuff. Okay, we've got all our cost here. It adds up to $115 billion to make this 122. We see last year we spent 131 to make 137. So the cost obviously are associated with making cars. If you're selling and making less cars, then the costs go down. That gives us an operating income, which is right here, at $6.6 billion. Notice this, that it's actually higher than last year. So GM did a nice job of, kind of generating profit, even though they had declining sales. They've controlled their cost considerably. You see here, last year they made on operating income $5.4 billion, and this year we made $6.6 billion. Now you come down to a net income that factors in some interest and some taxes and things like that. You come in at $6.3 billion. You see last year just a little bit higher, about $300 million more at $6.667 billion. So strong year for GM, all things considered. I don't need to explain what happened in 2020 and what happened with car sales on top of that. Now let's take a look at the balance sheet as well. They do the same thing here where they give you kind of a year-end view here, and they break it out with all this stuff, but I'm just going to look at the combined thing, and they give it to you last year as well. We see here we're a very strong cash cash position coming in at about $30 billion when you take into account these marketable securities and the cash and cash equivalents. Last year, we're sitting at under $25 billion, so they boosted that cash. We could assume that probably a little bit, maybe a little bit of cash flows from operation, but possibly a debt raise as well. Now, they've got these non-current assets here. So our total, let's focus on total current assets, came in at $80.9 billion, basically $81 billion. Last year, we were right at 75. So that is super solid. So our total assets coming in, when you factor in all the tooling and other things that they have, $235 billion. Last year, we were at 228. So this company did do a nice job kind of growing that. So total current liabilities coming in at about $80 billion. Last year was 85. We've got total non-current liabilities at 105. Last year was 907. So we can assume that we've got some long-term debt here in the automotive segment. It's sitting at $12 billion, or excuse me, $16 billion. It's right here. And the GM financial debt is sitting at $56 billion. You see, last year we were at $12 billion on that long-term automotive debt, and we were at 53 on the GM financial side. So they kind of rolled that over into this year and kind of increased that a little bit. So we've got total liabilities coming in at 185, or up about $3 billion over last year. But again, total assets coming in at 235, current assets at 80. I can see why this stock, you can compare this stock to maybe Ford, and Ford is like an $11 stock and GM's at $55 a share, and it's got an $80 billion market cap. This balance sheet, while it's not crystal clean, it's actually not that bad. And if they can turn things around, roll out these EVs, get some excitement behind them, this company is pretty well positioned. Now, moving over to the stock chart, this thing made a double top. So it topped out here at, we'll call that $57 per share. And sure enough, it kind of retraced all the way back down to about $48.75 per share. Rallied all the way back up to $57 per share and basically got rejected again. So we'll see what happens with this one. There's two intermediate spots here. If you want to get GM on a pullback, you got $52 per share. You got we'll call that $49 per share. Might as well bump these up to round numbers so they're easy to remember. $49 per share, $52 per share. And then down here, if we get some kind of market reversal, or if, the chip shortage really kind of weighs on this stock a little bit, you probably down here at 46.5 per share would be an interesting spot, would be a spot where I could consider maybe doing a little bit more, maybe even trading it. But what I could see with GM is we kind of consolidate up here in this upper end of the range, because this company is going to be a nice little press release company over the next 4 years, right? Okay, they're coming out with 30 new EVs over the next 4 years. That's a lot of cars over 4 years. There's going to be a lot of hype, a lot of marketing, a lot of, attention on this company, especially when you get this Hummer one. And certainly the Cadillac brand is going to be a little bit higher end, will probably draw a lot of marketing dollars as well. So I don't mind GM. I think you could wait for this pullback, wait for it to either settle here at $52 per share, maybe 49. If we can break above 57 on some strong volume, this thing could continue. I mean, it's been in a nice uptrend just over the last really month or so. This stock was a $40 stock, and now it's close to $55 a share. So if it can continue that momentum, bust up above $57 per share and keep going, then you could see this one moving to the upside. I don't know if that's going to be the case, because we did hit our head twice on this. I would wait for a pullback and then maybe a resumption of the uptrend for GM. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. We'll be back again very soon with more videos. Good luck with your investments.